welcome. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to be doing this. I'll go through a few little housekeeping pieces for you guys before we dive in. I always have to double check that I'm recording. I get so scared that I forget. Um, the first thing that I would love for you guys to do is we're going to be going at one point in the call tonight, we're going to be going through a guided journey with fear. And this is your choice. You don't have to, but I would recommend having, and I'm going to put this in the chat, the Devi Prayer by Craig Purvis and Ananda to listen to while we're going through it. I'm going to put it in the chat. You can find it on Spotify. You can also find it on Apple Music. It's like right there as soon as you see it. So that when we go into the guided journey with fear, I'll get you guys to play that in the background in your space. And yeah, it's just like a nice little extra piece that adds to the journey. Okay, so a little shape of the class. So, also, if none of you have ever connected with me in person, worked with me, my name is Christina. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy that you guys could come. And, this masterclass is very near and dear to my heart because fear has been a big piece that I have moved through continually on my journey. And I'm going to go into sort of what my journey has been because I think that piece is so helpful and really connected to all of this. But welcome. I'm so grateful that all of you are here. And it's going to be a good class. I'm really excited for the teachings here. I've never taught any of this before. So, another piece is the replay for the class will be available tonight. I'm going to send it all out tonight with any additional resources that you might need. If you have any questions, feel free to chat with me. You can always email me back or DM me. Yeah, and another piece is if you have questions as we're going, feel free to put them in the chat. After each piece that I go through, I'll check the chat to see if there's any questions or anything that you would like me to talk about in that moment. There's also going to be a Q&A at the end for anybody that has some extra questions to receive sort of some one-to-one support there. So in terms of what we're going to be really exploring today, I want to talk about again my journey. I'm going to dive into a little bit around my journey. And then I'm going to go into some talking pieces around fear and really understanding the deeper purpose and the deeper lesson of what our fears are here to provide us with, because they always come with a purpose. And, when we can begin to approach them with curiosity rather than resistance, that's one of the pieces of finding our freedom through them. Okay. So we're going to look at fear. I'm going to take you guys on a journey through fear, and that might feel scary in itself, but don't worry, you will be supported all along the way. And then we'll do some wrap up and some Q&A. So again, if questions come up as we're going along, feel free to put them in the chat. Or if it's just something that you're thinking of that you don't want to forget, feel free to put it in the chat. It's always helpful. I find too, it can really help with the community energy in the class. So yeah, if anything comes up for you, feel free to drop it in, because that's how we connect. And that's also how we learn is through connection as well. So that can always be really helpful for others. So let's dive right in. You know, for me and my journey, and I've talked about my journey a lot on my social media, on my Instagram, because for me, speaking my journey has become a really important part of my healing. It's also allowed me to learn this very deep truth, which is sharing our truth helps others feel less alone. There's something so important about speaking this experience and speaking the things that we go through, not only for the cathartic release we experience, but also for the connection that we get to experience with others. And so sharing my journey has been a big piece in just the community that I've built and the connections I built with others and my own healing. And motherhood in that was truly the start for me, the start of this journey. You know, before I became a mom 10 years ago, wow, my son just hit double digits. It's wild. Before I became a mom, I and I say this all the time, I thought I had this shit in the bag. Like, I went to school, I got the job I was supposed to get. I mean, and I loved it, but really, I was like doing all these things that I was like, this is what you're supposed to do. You get the good job, you find the person, you get married, you buy a house, you have children. I did all the things, like tickety boo. And then I went into motherhood, and I remember saying to my sister, because she had kids before me, and I remember saying to her, like, I think I'm going to be like really good at it. Cue the universe, because I was hit with the 2x4, like literally, and you know, Max was around 2, and Zoe, my youngest, she was a newborn. And I started to find myself in a really, really dark place, a place that I had never consciously been in before. I had gone through hard things in my life, but it was never a place where I'd always figured out how to make it through things. And I was in a place for the first time in my life where I couldn't figure out how to get through. It was dark, it was heavy. I had a lot of repressed childhood trauma showing up that I wasn't even aware that I was supposed to process, right? Like you get hit with these things and you're like, whoa, all of a sudden you see something so much clearer, like, whoa, that was trauma, or whoa, that was actually really bad. And so I had all of this stuff showing up within me. And one, I didn't know what to do with it. Two, so I was trying to control it. I was trying to control all of this stuff that was just here. And I found that it was coming out in ways of like anger and rage. I was not the mom that I wanted to be, that I thought I was going to be. I was either crying behind a door, feeling so overwhelmed, or I was screaming at my children. And all of it just didn't make sense to me because, again, I thought I had figured out how to do it. And I remember because it got to this place of just like, I didn't know what to do with any of it. And so I just kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it and trying to control it, control it, control it. Does that sound familiar? And I found myself on my bedroom floor one night, just so lost and in like full giving up. Like I couldn't fight it anymore. I couldn't fight all of it. And in that moment, I mean, maybe you don't know, but maybe you do know, like fetal position, crying. And I said out loud to what at that time I didn't know because I had no connection to spirituality or any of that at that time in my life. I said out loud, if there is anything out there, I need help because I don't know what to do anymore. And, it was in this moment of what I can see now as full surrender that I heard this really, really quiet voice. And she said, you have to keep going and you're going to be okay. And you need to start listening to me. And I just knew that that voice was me. She was me, but I hadn't heard her in so long. And it was like this moment of like, it was this moment of profound peace, but also like, but I'm still so fucking lost. Like, what do I do? And so I just started listening. I started listening to that voice. And I think sometimes we're like, we expect to just have this like, this moment of like, ah, where like you're just shown what to do. But like what I realized, what it was actually this sort of like reciprocal exchange that I had to start to do with this voice, which was my intuition, which was my soul on a much deeper level, being like, do this next, listen to this, learn this, read this, talk to this person, have this conversation, share this. That was a scary one, right? And so I just started to listen and do, and listen and do, and listen and do. And thus began the process of, first of all, finally connecting within myself for a life where I'd gone so disconnected my whole life. Two, beginning to build trust and trust up. We're going to talk about that because that's one of the main ingredients of moving through fear is trust. But three, there was so I can see that motherhood was my awakening. Well, this was my spiritual awakening. And when I say spiritual awakening, I began to open up to spirit. I began to open up to me. I began to open up to my body. And that's what this is about. Right. And so I'd love to say that that was the hardest moment. It wasn't. It was the start of me learning how to listen and support myself in the hard moments, because that's what this is about when it comes to our fear. It is not the absence. It's how do I listen and support myself and still nudge myself through the fear, because the fear is our human, but we're souls having this human experience, right? So in that moment, I heard and I paid attention to the voice because I had to. I had no other choice, really. But that was the beginning. And thus then took me on a journey of starting to learn how to move through so much of the fear that was showing up within me, creating so much of the resistance, creating so much of the pain that I then was projecting out with this anger and rage because I was so dysregulated. Right? So that new journey started, and then I would continue to be faced with fears and hard decisions moving forward. As I continue to walk this path, I started to share my journey. I started to build a community, and then I started to get this nudge that I wanted to help others. So I started my business. This was like 6 years ago. And then as my business was growing, I had to make the very, very hard decision of leaving my teaching contract because I couldn't do both anymore. I couldn't hold both. That was very hard. There was a lot of safety and security in that, but also a lot of attachment to identity of who I'd always been. And then furthermore, down my journey, I then had to be faced with the very hard decision and the fear that I had to work through of separating from my marriage and accepting a lot of really hard pieces, stepping out on my own for the first time as a single mom. Like like so many fears. I had to really like sit with some really deep things. And then in the wake of my separation, because I was still trying to figure out what was going on in my body and my nervous system, I had to make the very hard decision of going on antidepressants. And then a year later, learning how to come off of them. Going on them was just as hard as making the decision to come off, which is funny to think, but like both test so many different parts of you, right? I had to go deeper into a lot of my childhood trauma and abuse and heal that. So much fears that came up around that. Like, I say all of this because if you're on this path, and I feel like if you're watching this or you're here with us, you're on an awakening path. Your soul has signed up for something big here. And when I say big, it's like you're shifting some real big things in your energy, in your patterns, in your karmic energy. And the fear is going to be such a big part of that. Why? Because when we are expanding, which is what our soul came here to do, and especially a lot of our souls who are here to do some big things here in the collective right now, when we are expanding, our fear is going to come up because our fear shows us our edge. It shows us where that expansion doesn't feel safe yet. Okay, so we're going to go into this now, like breaking down what are your fears? Why are they here? What is the purpose of them? And this is something that I have really learned on my own path, on my own awakening journey that continues to be this very layered process of expansion. It's also, I've noticed this so much in all of the work that I've done with clients in readings and coaching and programs. This is a patterned experience that, and we like to think that we're alone and that like, oh, I'm the only one experiencing this. Well, that's also our ego being like, let's just stay here. Like, no, you're not alone in what you're experiencing. In fact, this is a part of this awakening process that so many of our souls came here to experience. And again, fear is such a big piece of this. And it doesn't go away. And actually becoming a master of this path, like really figuring out how to, I always like to say, like being in the game and playing it, like learning how to play it really well, is learning how to work with your fear, learning how to support yourself in it. Because our knee jerk reaction will be to push it away, to resist it, to fight it. And that only keeps us stuck and in discomfort and in pain until, I was talking about this to a client earlier today, until we have been detouring so far off our path that then the universe hits us hard. And that's that sometimes universal two by four. It's sometimes at rock bottom where it's like we have to get jolted and woken up. And that's often what will happen if we're not finding consistent flow through this process. Because when we find consistent flow through the fear, through the hard pieces that show up, through the pain, all of that's part of this. When we find consistent flow through it, it becomes like this rather than do, 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 right? So your fear, let's just really cement this in. It will always be here. It will always be part of this process because you are human. And that's part of the ego. And for so many of us, we didn't come here to be an enlightened being like Yeshua or Buddha. We came here to be a human working through our karmic shit. So that means fear. You know, I also want to talk about this important piece around fear and soul desires. Because when your fear is showing up, this means you're being shown your edge. Okay. And part of expansion is our soul desires. Part of expansion is on a deeper level, we desire these things for ourselves. And we can think sometimes it's like that thing, that material object, or maybe that money or that person, but on a deeper level, it's a feeling, it is an experience in our bodies, in our system that we are desiring. And so your fear and your expansion will always go hand in hand. Your fear and your soul desires will always go hand in hand. Because if you're not experiencing it yet, it means that there is something that doesn't feel safe yet to your system, or something you haven't worked through yet in your system. And that's where, when you get to the root of it, there's always fear involved. And so this is where it's important to, when you're doing this work, not just working with the fears, but also being really aware of like, what am I actually desiring also in my life? Because they're most likely going to be linked. And that gets you in the hang of, or in the practice of, expecting the two. Another really important piece is starting to see your fears as parts of you that are showing up. This can be really helpful if anybody is aware of internal family systems work, parts work. Amazing. It was life-changing for me. And it's actually a key piece of what I do with clients, because what parts work allows you to do is get curious. I call them like the C's: curiosity, compassion, connection, There are some other ones. I'm not thinking of them right now, but the C's, right? When we can get curious with what's showing up within us, that automatically creates space. And when you can start to see that when fear is showing up, these are parts of you that are showing up that are needing you, needing your capital S self, your higher self, also known as, to come in and support. That is the first part of the medicine, right? Is the validation of the fear that is showing up. When we try to, and this, I sometimes it really bothers me in the like self-development space when they're like, step through your fears, right? Like jump off the cliff. Well, don't jump off the cliff if it doesn't if there's not like any safety there at all, because that actually just collapses our system and it sends us sometimes into like complete overdrive. So parts work, being able to see that when your fear shows up, this is a part of you that's showing up that's needing you is is the first piece. And it also starts to regulate your nervous system. And this is the next piece that your fears are directly connected to a dysregulated nervous system. And so knowing how to work with your nervous system when you are in fight, flight, or freeze, right? Fight, flight, maybe you're in your head a lot. You're frantically thinking about things. You're in overdrive, ruminating, cyclical thoughts, worst case scenario, intrusive thoughts. Right now, intrusive thoughts, I could go on a whole different piece with this. But if you have intrusive thoughts, and this is something I experienced, this is a really dysregulated nervous system. Often there's a lot of like deep, deep trauma showing up because intrusive thoughts are a way of feeling in control. And the other side of that is the freeze response, right? When we go into collapse, when there's such deep overwhelm that we go into collapse, literally like the animal being chased and they know they can't outrun the predator, so they play dead. That's what freeze is. Our brain literally shuts off. And then we often will disassociate. So being able to work with your nervous system when your fears are showing up is another part of the medicine, right? Because when you can work with your nervous system to create a new baseline, that not only creates space for you to be able to work with the fears, but it also can really lessen them quite a bit because your system feels safe, right? You might notice this when you have a lot of fear showing up and you regulate yourself, or you've done something and maybe didn't even realize you were regulating yourself. It's because you created safety in your system. And sometimes that's enough. Or if it keeps coming back, that means there's something deeper to dig into. The final piece here is trust. Trust is, I like to say, the antidote to fear. Because the truth is, when we don't have trust, we are controlling. We're trying to control different pieces. You know, when we don't have trust, we stay in a very restricted state, which actually pushes away anything we're trying to receive, right? And when we don't have trust, we stay stuck. And so learning how to build trust in your system is such a key piece. And I bring it back to that moment when I was lying on the bedroom floor. And in hindsight, and I've really done so much, like built a lot of awareness around how it got to this place, which it had to. But in hindsight, when I look back, I was trying to control so many different things and I had zero trust. I had zero trust in anything outside of me, let alone a higher power. And that was obviously to do with things I had been through in my life where the trust had been continually broken. But as I began to go within myself and first and foremost, listen, feel, that trust then allowed me to start to learn how to build trust in other spaces and places, including, and most importantly, with spirit. But the trust piece is so important because, again, if we bring it back to this important truth, your fear is always going to be there. And it's not the absence, it's how do we support ourselves through it and in it. And trust is such a key piece of that. Trust is where we learn how to surrender, which is we release what we can't control and we bring it back to what we can, which is ourselves. So Those are some key pieces when it comes to understanding fear and some of the things that are involved in learning how to work with your fear, right? Seeing it as a really important part of your journey, seeing it as an indicator of your expansion. Oof, I love that. Right? Your fear is when we shift this perspective, it gets to be an ally, which is crazy because we've been taught to fear our fear. We've been taught to fight our fear. We've been taught to resist it. I mean, nobody was showing me how to work through this shit when I was younger. But when we start to learn how to work with it, that's the freedom. It's not freedom from fear, it's freedom through fear. It's freedom with your fear, right? And really starting to see that it's this important piece, this important continual piece on the expansion and awakening journey, which so many of us have come here to walk. Okay, my friends, I'm going to take you on a little guided piece here. So I'm going to give you a moment to get yourself set up, to get the music set up for yourself. And if you didn't see, if you're joining and you missed this piece, but I put into the chat here to find the Devi Prayer by Craig Purvis and Ananda. And you can find this on Apple. You can find it on Spotify. You just search up Devi Prayer. Yeah, Tanis, that motherhood experience, whew, took me through the ringer. Yeah. And isn't it so interesting how we've been conditioned to believe like, oh, you're not supposed to have fear, or that we're going to get to this place where, we're so like, I don't even like how this sounds, but like there's just sometimes these ridiculous ways that they make us, they being like sometimes the self-development community or the spiritual community of like, there's no fear, it's only love and light. Well, actually, we're human. And the more we expand, like the more I continue to expand, the more I expect the fear to be even bigger. Because I find the more I'm ascending, the more I'm descending into deeper, deeper, deeper things. But the difference is how I feel holding myself through it. The difference is the trust that I have in the experience. The difference is the awareness I have of, oh, I know what's going on here. Or like, here's my toolbox that I've now built within myself to, oh, I'm going to use that, or that's going to help me here. You know, that's the difference. And it totally changes our relationship with it. That's where we get to feel empowered. So you're definitely not doing anything wrong. The fact that you're here looking at this is that in itself is massive. So kudos to you. Okay, friends. So we're going to go into this little guided piece. So get comfortable. I'm going to turn it on my end. I like listening to it also. And maybe if you guys want to just give me the heads up to show that you're ready, maybe a thumbs up in the chat and if not, that's okay too. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So just letting yourself begin to close your eyes. And letting yourself slow down, bringing your awareness to your breath. Noticing how it feels to breathe in, to breathe out. Noticing the inhale and the exhale. Really just allowing yourself to slow down, to return to this place within. If you have thoughts showing up, just allowing them to be there. Right? This is normal to have thoughts. This is our ego doing its best work. Allowing the thoughts, sensations, feelings to all be here. And just practicing awareness. What is here now? What are you sensing? What are you feeling? Noticing if you can allow it to be here without placing an attachment onto it, a story. Beginning to deepen into your body and just noticing if there are any physical sensations showing up. Getting curious, continuing to allow yourself to sink to your breath, feeling the natural ebb and flow of your breath. Your breath can be a beautiful indicator of what you are needing in any given moment. Sometimes on the inhale, it can feel harder to fully breathe in, maybe showing us that we're struggling with expansion. We're struggling to open, to be seen, to be witnessed. On the exhale, sometimes it can be hard to settle, to let go, to release, showing us where we might have a hard time with control, with trust. And so just getting curious. And allowing yourself to bring to your awareness a fear that you are currently experiencing in your life. Could be in a relationship, your career path, with your body or your health, maybe being seen or witnessed. Any kind of fear that's showing up for you. And as you're bringing it to the forefront of your awareness, also noticing what begins to show up in the body. How does it feel to bring this fear up, letting it be here, maybe seeing it, feeling it, holding it, allowing it, but also noticing what shows up with it. Are there physical sensations, thoughts, emotions? Can be helpful to locate where the fear is showing up in your body. Seeing it as an energy that is showing up, not just a thought or a mental experience. Our fear always holds energy. It always holds a vibration. So what do you notice as you get curious with this fear? Does it intensify? Does it begin to spread? Do you shut it down? Do you feel resistance? Do you begin to disconnect? Does your mind start to get busier? All of these are clues. The way you are responding to this fear is guidance in itself, helping you see your relationship with the fear. And so allowing yourself to be with the fear that's showing up, breathing, riding the wave of the breath, letting yourself just sense it in the body. And now I also want you to bring up something that you desire for yourself. Letting yourself feel into something that you want in your life, you desire on a deeper level. This might show up again as something external, but if you go deeper with it, what is the feeling of it? What is the experience of it that you are desiring? Maybe this is greater freedom, peace, deeper connection within yourself or in a relationship, a sense of purpose, ease. Whatever that is, begin to notice this in your body. Where does it show up? What are the sensations that you're feeling? Are there emotions? Are there thoughts? Beginning to allow yourself to feel into the desire. Because remember, our fears are related to our deepest desires. And our desires are related to our deepest fears. And so, can you allow yourself to be with both? Not fighting, not resisting, allowing. Letting yourself feel into the desire, what it could feel like, envisioning it in your life, breathing, allowing, feeling, sensing, and coming back to the fear and allowing it to be here. What is it communicating? How is it connected to your desire? What are you scared of? And how could the fear be protecting you? Your fear is always trying to protect you. So can you be with it? Can you give it space to express to you? And if you were to think of this fear as a younger part of you, how old could she be? Where does she come from? Why is she scared? What does she need? Getting curious, allowing space for the fear, for the part of you to speak, to feel, to be witnessed, to be held. And understanding what she is needing, can you now see that she's needing this from you now? And not just the protection, but this younger part of you, she's connected to your soul. She also wants the desired peace. Not only is she scared and trying to protect you, but she also desires what you desire. And so, how can you hold her gently in the fear, compassionately, with ease and grace, while also gently bringing her forward into what she deserves and desires? Holding space in this moment for both, allowing yourself to be with both, seeing that both her fear and her desire are so beautifully perfect, seeing that both your fear and your desire are hers. This is what it means to be a soul having a human experience. Both are necessary. Breathing, feeling, sensing, allowing. And now taking a moment here to make a small promise to your little self, looking her in the eyes, holding her. How can you hold her in her fear moving forward? And how can you also help her step into her desire for herself, for yourself, what she deserves to experience is what you deserve to experience. Look her in the eye. Make this small promise to her. Lock it in. Hug her, hold her, and tell her that you will be back, that you've got her. Most importantly, that you've got this, and that it's okay for her to be scared, but you've got her moving forward. So just taking a moment here, allowing yourself to just come back to the body. Noticing how it feels in the heart space, doing a little scan in the body to see what's showing up. Maybe gently moving your fingers and toes. And if your eyes are still closed, when you feel ready, opening them and allowing yourself to reorient back to your room, the room that you're in. You can look around. Sometimes it helps to just place your eyesight or your vision on one thing in the room to help reorient. And just taking a moment to write down anything that might have come through for you. And feel free to share in the chat if you want to, anything that might have come up, anything that you experienced. It's really important when we're doing this work to connect into the body. Our body holds so much stored, unprocessed energy, especially if there's fear showing up. That's often, if it's a cyclical fear. So if you notice it's showing up a lot and there's a pattern, it means that your body is holding something that needs to be felt, processed, moved, released. And you'll start to notice that the pattern of that doesn't show up as much. And then eventually not at all because you move and you alchemize the energy. So it's really important when we're working with our fears to drop into the body, to work with the body somatically. But it doesn't stop there because we're still meant to expand. We're still meant to step into what our soul has come here to do and experience. And so it's learning how to work with both experiences. And that's part of what I had you do there. It was titrating between the two, moving back and forth between the two. That's how we find safety in expansion. So, one of the things I want to say here before we go on to the Q&A, so if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them after this. But one of the things that I want to say here is, this has been such a big piece again for me on my path is learning how to work with all of this because I can see for a lot of my life, I fought it. I disassociated. I was disconnected from my body, from my intuition, from what was right for me on a deeper level. And I was functioning very much in my mind and functioning from a place of ego. And it worked for so long until it didn't, until I was broken open, for all the right reasons. And so this is so near and dear to my heart, not only because of my own experience and healing on this path and coming home to my body and my truth and my power, but also like this is such important work that I know I'm here to do with women on this path. And if you don't know, I will say this as well. We're going to be starting a very special mentorship container called Empowered Awakening in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. It is a very, very special program that I've never done before. I've never done something like this before. It's a 12-month mentorship journey in a very intimate group. There's a certain number that I've been shown from spirit that will be our number. So it's capped, and we still have a few spots. Yeah, we're starting in 2 weeks. And, just to give you an idea, obviously we're going to go deep with fear, but there's so many other pieces that we're going to be diving into: the ego, the purpose of your pain, the nervous system, dark night of the soul, surrender, developing your intuition and your gifts, the chakras, learning energetic boundaries, soul patterns, ascension, embodiment, compassion, self trust. And then I will also be teaching a very special alchemical process called the Grace Method, which I learned a couple months ago when I went on a solo trip to Mount Shasta. It channeled through me, and it's this very transformative process for alchemizing your deepest pain into your power. So I will be teaching that in the program as well. We will be doing weekly sessions that follow the lunar cycle, the moon. So that's another way that you'll be deepening into your self trust and your intuition. Because learning the moon phases and the cycle of the moon was one of the first things I did on my journey. And it was one of the first ways I came home to my intuition, because our cycles directly mimic and reflect the cycles of the moon. It's the feminine. Luna, the moon, she is feminine. And so learning how to work with the moon phases also teaches you how to work with your phases, your cycle. And yeah, we will be following the moon cycles all through the whole 12 months. So weekly sessions will be based on the new moon, the full moon, the first quarter, the third quarter. Like, it's going to be so exciting. And as a final piece, in case you want to know around sessions, we will be doing a new moon teaching. So that will be like the theme of the month. And then we'll be doing Akashic Records guidance and channeled pieces as a second part, the first quarter session, where we'll tap into the Akashic Records and you'll be able to receive direct guidance. We'll also be doing a full moon reflection piece where we look at everything that's shown up, work through the fear, work through all the resistance. And then we'll also be doing a somatic session on the third quarter, which will be teaching you how to get into your body and work with everything showing up in your body and find greater power through that. So, so much goodness. I am so freaking excited for it. If you have questions, you can let me know. Yeah, we start in 2 weeks, and it's going to be just something else. I'm so excited. Um, yeah, my friends. So that is the masterclass on fear. If you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat, but I would love to answer. We've got a little bit of time, so I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. If it's something that showed up for you that you want some deeper guidance on, or if it's something related to fear, anything, just pop a question in the chat and I can give you that support if you need it. How is everybody doing out there? Mm, okay, yeah. So the throat chakra, that's often a really big one that comes up. The throat chakra is related to our ability to communicate, to speak our truth, sometimes to be seen, to be witnessed. It can sometimes be related to our own validation of self or invalidation of self. Um, so something that I do is, so there's a few different things you can do. If we're looking at it from more of like a physical support, you can practice more regularly humming. So humming works with the vagal nerve as well, and it provides regulation. So, like sometimes when I'm working through something, I will do some humming, or even just like an audible release. And sometimes we can bring movement into that to help, right? One of the things with our throat chakra is often we will be blocked there if we feel like we had to suppress things, if we feel like our voice wasn't able to be heard when we were younger, or we were invalidated in some way, or we weren't able to express our truth. And so we want to be able to, the main thing with the throat chakra is release, is to let it out. And if we're looking at starting to do this in a safe way, you could start by just, journaling more frequently and more consistently. That's one way to let it out. You could start to have conversations with people, more conversations with people who are safe, who can hold truth. And that allows you to practice speaking more of your truth. Boundaries are a big piece when it comes to the throat chakra and speaking our truth, or letting things out. So I don't know if any of those pieces come up, because often when we are feeling something quite somatically, that's where a lot of the energy will be trapped. And so, how do we help that energy move in some way? One thing I like to do as well that can feel quite supportive is rather than like palms like this, I actually put the back of my hands here and I bring my elbows in, and it can feel quite almost like a bit of like a hug, and it feels the throat, or the throat can feel quite supported this way, and you can even massage gently. So that can be another way to move some of the energy. How does that feel? Amazing. Guidance. Okay, so I'm going to read this out just so that for anybody who's watching the replay. The guidance was mind blowing. I could really feel I connected with my little self when giving the hug. What does this mean going forward? Is this a first healing? I really felt it in my heart. Yes. So I love that you're asking this, Joella, because sometimes this can be the first time that we connect with our little self ever. Sometimes it can be the first time that we connect with our little self with that peace. And I think just the most important thing to understand is that trust is born in consistency. And so we, the greatest way that we can build self-trust within ourselves is through being consistent with ourselves. So the little self that would have shown up in the guided piece that we did here, she has now opened to you, right? Because sometimes these parts of us have been exiled for a while, or we haven't either ever connected with them, or it's been a really long time. And so if you did connect with a little self within you, like your little self, it's important to understand that now she's open and she is looking for that connection and might also be expecting it. And so we want to start to keep a small promise to connect with her. That would be the most important piece here, is how can you make it a priority to just connect with her in small ways. It doesn't have to be this big thing that you do every day, because that's where we will just not do it. I was going to say self-sabotage, because I'm not a huge fan of that word, because when we self-sabotage, we're protecting ourselves. But if we make it a big thing, we often won't do it. And so, how can you make a small promise to yourself and to her that you will begin to connect with her more frequently? And what you will notice in the consistent connecting is that she will open up more, or more things will be shown to you. That's the beauty of the trust that we build in this. And you might start to have things come through. You're like, whoa, I didn't even remember that. Or whoa, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that that was connected. Or once you start to get down this path, and this is something I've started to experience more, is you also begin to have these really beautiful moments come through. Like I was having I want to share this. It was so beautiful in my meditation today, and I could cry because it like makes me so happy thinking about it. And it sounds so silly, but I was taken back to this moment when I was really young. And I remember I had to like run inside to go pee, but I was having so much fun playing that like I didn't want to, but I did. But I remember sitting like, this sounds so silly, but I remember sitting and being like, oh my God, I want to get out there so badly because I'm having so much fun. And like, I didn't have access to this stuff a long time ago. And that's the beauty of this work is that it's not just about the hard stuff that we access and process and heal. We also then create this safe space for all of the good stuff to come back too, because often it all gets repressed, you know? And so I like had this moment today where I was like, oh my God, that was the best feeling ever. Oh, yeah, like such big hearts because like it just reminds me of like when I look at my daughter, she's so tapped into joy sometimes, and I'm like, I couldn't somatically feel that when she does it, and today I did, and I was like, oh my God, that was the best feeling ever. And that's the beauty of this work is like when we connect with our little self over time and we build this trust, we then also get to access all of these really, really beautiful, joyful, exciting expansive pieces that we had as kids as well. So, yeah, sorry, you guys. I wasn't expecting to go there, but it really was beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah, any other questions, you guys, that you want me to explore with you? Honestly, there's no question that that's wrong or doesn't work here. Anything that's coming up for you that you want to ask, now would be the time, and I can answer. And if not, maybe we're complete. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to put this all together for all of you tonight. And Jen, I loved the throat massage support suggestion around the throat chakra. Yeah, because it's important, right? Like this isn't just releasing through like writing or speaking, or sometimes it's yelling. I mean, I've screamed into a pillow many times. But then there's also this beautiful physical support that we can provide different parts of our body that need it. One thing, not this is not related to the throat, but something I find with my heart is when I'm moving through like really hard grief and I tap my heart, it really allows more to come up. And it really allows me to go deeper, right? So there's something to be said about the physical support that our body needs in also releasing some of this, and our hands are also connected to our heart chakra and they channel energy. And so using our hands to channel that energy, it's like doing personal Reiki for yourself, right? So that can be a really important thing to think about as well. Okay, so I'm going to be sending the replay for any of you who are here now who want that recording. I'm going to be sending everything out tonight, any extra resources that I think could be helpful for you. If you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. If you have questions about the program, do not hesitate to reach out. There's a few spots left. Um, and yeah, just taking a moment so we can close the circle together. If you have a moment, if you're doing things, that's okay. But bringing your awareness here for this moment, noticing your breath, letting yourself just come back here for a moment so that you can close the energy, so you can close the circle. Finding gratitude for bringing yourself here today, for opening yourself up to receive, for allowing yourself to be supported. and making one small little promise of something that you're going to do for yourself moving forward in support of what you experienced here. I thank each and every one of you for coming and all of you on the replay. I love you guys all so much, and I hope you have the best day. Goodbye, everybody.